So the interval just refers to the amount of space between two notes. So let's take a look at this C. This is middle C. And for a second, it's going up to the next note. So you can see they start with the note name. So C is for cow, D is for dolphin, and they're right next to each other. This is a second, also known as a step. For a skip, it's going to be the cow to the elephant. So it's skipping over the white note. 1, 2, 3. That's a third, otherwise known as a skip. Frog is on the F. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's a fourth with the frog. Now if we were doing a fourth down from C, it would be C, and then we would count 1, 2, 3, 4, and that ends up being G. So a fourth from C, it depends on if you're going up or down, what note you're going to end up on. And the intervals, if we want to look at a sixth, we have 1 on C, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's going to be an A, which is this alligator. So you can see that distance is a lot bigger between those notes. We have second here. The second is the CD, the dolphin. And the sixth is the cow and the alligator. And then if we went up to the last one that we can do, the seventh, that ends up being the bluebird. You can see what a big distance the seventh is. It's just one note short of a whole octave, which is from C to C. That's from C to B is the seventh. This chart here lines up with these notes. Middle C is right here, and then it goes either down or up from there. And I just wanted to show you some things for identifying intervals by ear. There are some very well-known songs that if you can remember that they're associated with a certain interval, you'll be able to recognize that when you hear it. So, for example, this one. Do you know what that song is starting? So that's the Happy Birthday song. So if you remember that the beginning of the Happy Birthday song, that's a second. And it's going up, so this little trick is useful for learning the intervals as they go up. It's harder to identify things where the intervals are going down, but a second up, and that holds for anywhere on the piano. You can have any starting note. The third, oh, when the saints go marching in, when the saints go. So it starts with a third, oh, when, but then it steps up. But remembering that third interval, if you remember the beginning of Oh, When the Saints, that's a third. For the fourth is Here Comes the Bride, the wedding song. And then for Twinkle Twinkle, we'll show you for a fifth. Well, let's see the next one. Oh yes, this one is My Bonnie Lies Over the Ocean. So that's My Bonnie. I don't know if there's a well-known song for the 7th. I don't think so. So that one, it just sounds very odd. And you would be thinking of, here's the octave, and it's almost at that octave. So that's how you would remember what the 7th is. And this is, again, just going over all of this by ear. So I'm going to review how to determine what an interval is when you see it on a sheet of music like this. So we're going to start with this starting note. Do you remember what the starting line note for the treble clef is? So it's E. And the first interval that we can have would be either up or down. We would have an interval from E to the next note up, which would be F. And so you start with your starting note, which would be E, that would be number 1, and then you would, the next step up, you would go 2. If it's at 2, it's a second. Now the next one, start at E again, and if you recall, we've talked about steps, which is going up one note at a time, and then this would be a skip. And so we would go 1 for the line note where we are, 2 for the space, and then we end up at this line, which is G. And that, since you go 1, 2, 3, you end up at 3. So it is a third. And these can go up or down. If your starting note was G and you were going down, you would be going down a third to E. Some other things starting at different places. We're going to start at this third space note, and we're going to go up to this line note. So we're going to start our counting here. 1, 2, 3, and then here's the line. 4, so it's a fourth. Okay, so if we started here, this second space note, and we wanted to go up a fifth, we would just go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 in this last space, and that would be a fifth. Now, if you notice something, the odd intervals are going from either a space to a space or a line to line. The even intervals go from a space to a line or a line to a space. And that's another little helpful thing to remember when you're trying to figure out intervals. Okay, so we're going to try just a few more examples to show you what some of these intervals look like. So we're going to start with our starting note, which is E, and that'll start with 1. So as we've gone over, if we went up one step, it would be a second. Okay, let's take a look. If we wanted to go up a fifth, what would it look like? So we'd start with our starting, count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the fifth would be this note here, which is B, every good boy. Now what if we were up here? What note is that? Every good boy does fine. The top line note is an F. What if we wanted to go down a sixth? So we'd start up here, count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's down a sixth. And what note is that? It's an A. So if you remember, F, A, C, E. We'll try just a couple more examples. Let's start somewhere in the middle. And let's just put a note anywhere. So we were saying that odd intervals are line to line or space to space. So let's go from here down to here. And this is going to have to be an odd, it's going from line to line, right? So it has to be an odd interval. Let's see if that's true. So we're going to start with 1. I'm going to start counting down. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we get down to this line here. That's a seventh. So we're going every good boy does. That's a D down to the E. And that actually is true because it's just one short of a whole octave. But that line to line did turn out to be an odd interval. Let's do one last example here. And keep in mind that what we're going, even though we're focusing on the treble clef just because it's convenient, everything that we're talking about here also applies to the bass clef. Okay, so let's start down here, off the staff, make it more challenging. And we're going to go from here up to, let's make it a line note. So we're going to go from space to line note. It should be what? An even interval, right? Now if you recall, do you know what note this is? If we remember that this first line note in the treble clef is E, it's going to be a step down from E, which is going to be D. So that's our starting note. We start counting at this space below the first line. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we have a sixth. So this would be, so it is an even interval going from the space to the line. And this it goes from D to every good boy to B. So this is just a little bit more review on how to name intervals on the staff. Okay, so the introduction music to this lesson is a piece called Tarantelle, and it's by a famous composer named Bergmüller. And the part that I was playing is these measures here that are in pink. So it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 measures. And one of the neat things about this section of this piece is it is a great example of what we've been talking about, which is the intervals. So the starting note here, if you can see this, and I'll make a copy of this available to you so that you can learn this at home. It's off of the staff, as you see. And so the way that we figure out the notes that are off the staff is we can do the very last one that we know that's on the staff, which happens to be every good boy does fine. So that's F. And then we go a step up from F is G. And then what happens? The musical alphabet starts over again. So this is A. So your starting note for this is A. And if you remember, middle C would be down here in the middle between the staffs. Middle C is down here, way down here. You can hardly see it in the video. And then this C is treble C, which is this C. That's a whole octave up from middle C. And this is the A above that treble C. So that's what the music starts on, is this A here. So what you really have to do for this is pay attention to the fingering. So this, you're starting on the A here, and you're starting your third finger, but then you're going to have to be careful because you're going to be changing your hand position a lot for this. But I want you to listen to this. You see that? Those are seconds. So it's seconds going down here, or steps. And then it starts and repeats this and does more seconds. And then it does seconds going up again. Okay, so that's kind of neat how it does the seconds both going down and up, sort of in a sort of triplet feel. So you start with your third finger on the A. So it's 3, 2, 1. And then your third finger is going to take over on that F. A, G, F, F, E, D. So that's what you need to practice at first. And then when you go up, you'll be doing the same thing. 1, 2, 3, and then the hand hops up. You get to the third finger, and then the thumb takes over. So that's what you should be trying to learn now for the beginning part of this song. That's these two measures right here. So that's what you'll be working on and hopefully learning at home. Try to get that fast rhythm like that. It's an allegro piece, which is a very fast tempo. So it's faster even than what I'm playing here. But to start with, let's just get used to going. That's what you'll be working on. Okay, see you next time.